Hello, everyone. I'm Meriki Yakidi, Global Thought Leader at Kantar, and I'm delighted to be joined here today by Katie, who is the General Manager of Marketing and Creative at Endeavour. Now, Katie, welcome. Please tell me a little bit about you and about your role at the Endeavour Group.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me, Mary. I joined Endeavour Group just over 3 months ago, actually, so still quite fresh, but was brought
Mhm,
in to run their creative solutions across the group. Endeavour has 9 brands across our portfolio, including some pretty well-known ones like Dan Murphy's, BWS, Jimmy Brings, ALH Hotels, just to name a few. But what's
mhm,
interesting is that each of those brands require their own approach to bring their brands to life for customers. So my remit is to use creativity to problem solve across our group portfolio. And creativity is a funny one, isn't it? Because it can be broad in how we define it and how we apply it. I think in my context, it never looks the same day by day. So one day it might mean applying design thinking to a new product development need, or it might mean strategic visioning to uncover a growth strategy, or it might mean content production at scale for personalization. So I think what I've learnt is it's broad, it's deep in terms of what creativity can do and
mhm.
how it can be applied to drive commercial outcomes for us. And I think that's really the important part is creativity is so much more than a colouring in department, which is what so many people often refer to it as. It genuinely can drive those commercial outcomes. So I'm only just getting started, but I'm really excited to be here.
Now, we've recently released a guide that debates modern marketing dilemmas, conundrums that have been polarizing the marketing industry for a few decades now. And unsurprisingly, one of those was about the inflation, is about inflation, and how marketers should react when prices are going up. Now, consumers are feeling the pain of paying every day, and marketers are increasingly under pressure to protect their margins
Mm.
unless, of course, they find a way to bridge that gap between price, the price that is asked, and the price that is paid. How do you deal with that challenge? I mean, and how much of that actually sits with creativity?
Yeah, I mean, value conscious consumers, I think, is the global talk of the town at the moment, isn't it? Given the economic headwinds we're all across the world facing. I think what's important is that value doesn't become a race to the bottom. We all know that that doesn't stand to benefit anyone. So we have to hold the line on that. I think creativity, of course, and I'm sure I'm biased, but I do think it has a really important role to play to elevate out of the price debate. And actually at Endeavour, we've been really fortunate at a leadership level of late to have learnt from, and I'm not going to pronounce his name as well as I should, but I'll give it my best go. We've learnt from a wonderful professor called Felix Oberholzer-Gee, and he's a professor at Harvard Business School and an author of Better Simple
Mhm,
Strategy, a brilliant, brilliant man. But he has downloaded some genius to us and on us as a business around the value stick, which hopefully most marketers out there are familiar with. Essentially, really simplistically, at the bottom of the stick, you have willingness to sell. At the top of the stick, you have willingness to pay. And actually, our
mhm,
job is all about the value creation in the middle of that spectrum that we need to build. So if we think of Apple, for example, in this context, if we think about the
mhm,
queue that forms outside the shop front of an Apple store when the next iPhone releases, that is a physical manifestation of what customers' willingness to pay is to have that new iPhone in their hands. And you know that is a great demonstration of how the power of brand and product aligns with their own personal values. So for me, that's a masterclass in brand building, in creativity, driving emotional brand connections with customers. That's the value creation bit that's going to drive willingness to pay. And it's ultimately what's going to distinguish a more profitable and successful brand over another. So, again, I'm biased, I'm sure, but creativity, certainly in my view, is the sharpest tool in our marketing armory in this value conscious climate. So, not to be overlooked.
You might be biased, but you're very right. And my last question to you, Katie, is one would say that creative people have a very hard job in the boardroom, possibly the hardest job in the boardroom, in a sense that the CEOs and the CFOs often speak a different language, a language that solely looks at the financial metrics at the bottom line. Now, What's your strategy in that room? I mean, how do you go about convincing the C-suite that creativity can truly solve a business problem and that it's intertwined with the business's financial results?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it comes up a lot, doesn't it? I think often, actually always, you're going to have a C-suite that's made up of all different backgrounds, capabilities, contexts. So it's really important to recognise that frame of reference when engaging with them. And I think it's our job as marketers to find a common language or way that we can level and enable access to the narrative that you're trying to land with them. And
Mhm.
actually, I think thankfully for us, for marketers, data is king in the C-suite. And we've had so much data over the years to prove that creativity can directly link to business results and outcomes. So, for example, when McKinsey did their audit and review and launched the award Creativity Score back in, I want to say, late 1990s, early 2000s, they
Mhm.
looked at broad direct correlations between companies that were winning a number of Cannes Lions across a breadth of categories, that they were consistently winning over time, that could be directly attributed into business value, growth, and profitability. And I thought that was just a brilliant story that you could take directly into the boardroom. And
Yeah.
likewise, we certainly can't overlook the genius and infamous James Herman in his case for creativity, who very pointedly says creative companies outperform the S&P 500. In fact, Cannes Advertisers of the Year between 1999 and 2015 outperformed the S&P 500 by a factor of 3.5 times. And then there are countless other examples. So, for example, since 1999, every Cannes Lion Creative Marketer of the Year has won during a period of record performance. So I'm just really encouraged that we've actually got the stories, the case studies to be able to take to the boardroom, to take to the C-suite, to encourage them to see the value in creativity and what it can drive for the business. So for me, I think a few good news stories like this to tell that are grounded in fact, not fiction, hopefully suggest that we're certainly worthy of a seat in either the boardroom or at the C-suite table.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Again, now thank you, Katie. I remain delighted that we've had this chat, and I would say you've stimulated creative minds everywhere. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure.